Welcome back to ARC Salt Lake here at 8:30. We cover authentic, relevant, and community stories.
Well, David is working on Wordle, and we want to send things over to Lincoln now, chatting with one of our favorite guests.
Yeah, Ron and Mary. With the anniversary of 9/11 coming up, a recent court ruling on redistricting, and local cities speaking out on ICE deportations. A lot is happening in Utah right now, so we're here with former Governor Gary Herbert to get us up to speed. Governor Herbert, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you. Good morning to everybody.
All right. Well, let's talk about 9/11, of course. We have that anniversary coming up, a really somber anniversary. How's Utah honoring that day?
Well, days of service I see around the state. Churches, independent organizations out there, civic organizations are saying, what can we do? Clean up the neighborhood, help out with some maybe public service in some form or fashion. Everybody's trying to find some way to remember in a positive way September 11th as a day of service. And I think that's appropriate.
And let's talk about, this is going to be the 24th anniversary of 9/11. Can you talk about what role you played in, as back then, where you were? Give us some memories of that time.
Yeah, sure. I was a Utah County Commissioner at the time, and it's one of those events that everybody remembers where they were at when it happened. I happened to be upstairs getting ready to go to work, and my wife yelled up and says, "Turn on the television. A plane has fallen into the trade towers in New York." And I turned it on, and I saw a plane fly into a building there. And I thought it was a replay, but that was the second plane that we saw live after we saw the first plane fly in. So it was one of those days that you just hard to believe and comprehend. The thing that I do remember from it, though, is that we had more patriotism there than probably any time in my life. I served in the military at the tail end of Vietnam, and people were spit on, coming back from Vietnam, called baby killers. Our patriotism wasn't really very good there, and we didn't honor our soldiers like they should and deserve to be honored.
And like you said, patriotism, that can certainly be reflected in service. So an appropriate way for a day of service to remember 9/11.
Yeah. We were very patriotic. The good news was we sang the national anthem a little more vigor. We cared about our country, we honored our soldiers. But come the next November, which is just a couple months away, we had a very low voter turnout. So that's always the contrast of the patriotism we vocalized and then actually doing something as basic as going and voting, we fell down. So let's make sure we vote this November. Show your patriotism by being a good American and participating in the process.
Well, Governor Herbert, I want to switch topics and talk about redistricting in Utah. How do you think the state is responding to that court ruling to redraw congressional maps?
Well, the Constitution is clear that that's the legislature's responsibility to, in fact, draw the maps. It's been altered because of Prop 4, and almost a co-opportunity for us to create law in the state of Utah is we have an initiative petition process, which passed. The Supreme Court, our Utah Supreme Court, looked at it and said, as opposed to most times where you can override that as a new statute and the legislature can override it, in this particular case, the public has the right to alter their government as they see fit. That's the bone of contention that we have out there. Can they do that or not? That'll probably be appealed again, maybe to the U.S. Supreme Court. But gerrymandering and redistricting, has been a way of life in America for a long time. I don't know if people recognize how overwhelmingly Republicans control the state of Utah because of the overwhelming number of Republicans. We have, in the state of Utah, we have 2 million registered voters. Over 1 million of them are registered Republicans. The second largest group is not Democrats, it's independents, unaffiliated. There's about 30% of those people that are independent, and probably half of them lean to the right. The Democrat Party has about 14% total. So it shouldn't surprise us that we have, as we draw these districts, it certainly leans Republican. That's just the numbers, and it's hard to come up with another way to configure it unless you do gerrymander and say we're going to make this central area here, Salt Lake City, Park City, just a Democrat district only. as opposed to what the legislature is saying. We want our districts to represent rural and urban together so that there's not an imbalance as far as how we represent the entire state of Utah.
Okay, I want to talk about ICE and deportations, immigration issues right now. Some cities like Riverton cooperating with ICE. Others are voicing concerns. What role do you think the state should play?
Well, we've tried to play a larger role. Back in 2010, when I was governor, the state legislature passed laws and statute to help us, in fact, work better with those who are here as undocumented aliens. We were challenged in court. We went to court. We lost in court, where the court said to us in no uncertain terms, this is a federal issue, not a state issue. And so we had to kind of back off what we were trying to do. We've put some guidelines in place about treating people with dignity and humanity that they are. But we also said there's a right way and a wrong way to come into the country. We've been fighting over this thing since Ronald Reagan, when he gave amnesty. The challenge we face really is Congress is not resolving anything. And so we have an executive that comes in now and says, I'm tired of it. A lot of people are tired of no action. And hence we empowered ICE to be a little more aggressive. I have no problem with local control, and if the local people, the sheriffs or deputies or the police department in a city want to cooperate and work with ICE to help find people, particularly those who are egregious criminals, to get them removed from our state and the country, I think that's fine. But we ought to do it with a little common decency and some decorum and recognize the humanity of the people we're dealing with.
And Governor, we only have about a minute left. This has been an issue that divides communities. So what message do you have for those who are kind of living through this and how divisive it really is?
Well, again, the guidelines are that we ought to treat each other as best we can. I mean, we ought to treat each other as, good neighbors, want to be friends. What can we do to help? But we also have to respect the law. And that's sometimes a hard thing. We have compassion for people that really just want to come to America because they have a better life. That's why they're here. We're a great place to live. We know that. And others would like to live here with us. But there's a right way to come in. The thing I wish that the Congress would do is run one act. And two, we need to recognize it's not just a matter of building a wall, building a fence to keep people out. It's also having a gate that works, that allows people to come and go appropriately so on visas, work visas, education visas. There's opportunities there to improve our gate, and I think that's something people are ignoring way too much. The gate doesn't work. If we get the gate to work better, we wouldn't have as much problem with the wall.
Okay. Former Governor Gary Herbert, thank you so much for joining us. We always appreciate having you on ARC Salt Lake. Always a fun conversation, so thank you for doing this.
Honored to be here. Thank you. Good luck to you.
All right. All right, we're going to